7 years ago, I fired our top producer on our sales floor, and he was number one about 6 months in a row. And I think that was 6 months too long. He showed up when he wanted to show up. He took a 2-hour lunch. He was a jerk. Just because you're a great producer doesn't mean you're a great leader. Are you training people to come up to the top of the mountain with you? Or are you just someone who's at the top flexing their arms and is just a jerk about it?
Salespeople and SDRs come with emotional baggage, these big peaks in performance, then troughs because suddenly I'm taking the rejection really hard.
You just have to understand that, it is a roller coaster, but the best way to have fun on a roller coaster is to keep the bar down. We are very bullish on cold calling. We do about 11 million cold calls a year.
Do you think it will get to a point where we don't communicate on the phone anymore and actually it's more quick, fast, text, social, whatever it may be?
AI is incredible, but at the end of the day,
Before we get started with the episode, our books are now open.
If you need help getting in front of the right people, finding your dream customers, or winning new business, we might be able to help.
Why not outsource your sales to We Have a Meeting? Just go to wehaveameeting.com.
Gabe, welcome to the podcast.
thank you so much, Jack. Appreciate it. And huge fan of both of you guys. And super excited to be here.
You've got a gorgeous setup, so I hope that people aren't just listening to this, they're watching it as well. Gabe, big question. Who are you and what problem do you solve?
Yeah, I'm an SDR that's been doing this a long time, that got into a position to be grateful enough to have a bunch of them in a company that I'm a co-owner of. So it's pretty exciting. What we solve really is, go to market demand. We have a lot of companies that, ask, hey, I have a broken system. I have a lot of AEs that need appointments. I have, a huge enterprise company that we are constantly churning reps, and we need a constant flow of SDRs on demand. So we provide those types of services for companies like that.
Nice. Okay. And when these companies come to you, I'm sure you've been doing this long enough to kind of spot themes now. What are they typically doing wrong to get there?
Yeah, I think the big thing is enablement, right? Anyone could go out and hire someone out of school or hire someone like myself that was a bartender, right, in college, and wanted to get into tech sales or wanted to get into financial sales. And you can hire SDRs, but supporting them, enabling them, giving them the right data, giving them the right tools, giving them the right training, giving them the right management, giving them the right KPIs and dashboards and analytics and a track to run on. That's where it gets expensive. Right. And that's where, you look at almost twice, if not more, the cost of paying a rep just to support the rep. And companies who try to build out an SDR function don't know that or don't realize it until they're down that road. And then they say, okay, whoa, one, this is not working and much more expensive than I thought it was going to be. So I need help. And that's usually what they're asking about.
So we know that a good SDR doesn't necessarily make a good leader, and often over promoting an SDR, you end up with a bad leader. But clearly something's gone different in your journey. You're someone who's been an SDR and now a leader. What advice would you give to those people who are SDR level now but have leadership aspirations?
Yeah, it's a great question. 7 years ago, I fired our top producer on our sales floor. Right? We had 80 SDRs in our office on our sales floor, and he was number one about 6 months in a row. And I think that was 6 months too long. The problem was he showed up when he wanted to show up. He took a 2-hour lunch. He was a jerk. People asked him for help and support, and what were you doing? He just didn't help them. So to your point, just because you're a great producer doesn't mean you're a great leader. Right? And so, but I do believe great producers should be great leaders, or at least great leaders should come from top producers, right? So it's a matter of, which are you? Are you a great producer, and can you support and turn around and say, okay, I'm at the top of the mountain. Well, here's how you do it. Here's how you get there. Here's how you get there faster. Watch out for that rock on the way up. Like, are you training people to come up to the top of the mountain with you? Or are you just someone who's at the top and, flexing their arms and is just a jerk about it? So I think it's important that, it's not about, yourself. It's about serving others. I was always taught when I was younger, like, service to many leads to greatness. So if you can turn around and teach, my mom's a school teacher, And so I learned, the act of teaching. So if you could go out and teach people how to do it, and then if you can teach teachers how to do it, that's epic, right? So I've been able to find some amazing leaders that I can teach them how to teach. And that's how we've been able to scale the business.
So salespeople and SDRs, like any job, come with emotional baggage, but probably more so in this game, you're facing rejection and validation every day. So you've got to face that relationship. And often what people are seeing in their own sales teams is these big peaks in performance, then troughs because suddenly I'm taking the rejection really hard. What have you found works to create consistent, predictable SDRs that don't have that massive up and down in trajectory?
Yeah, I think the two hardest things is exactly what you just said. And looking for grit, right, is the number one thing we look for, but it is the hardest thing to find on a resume. So you really have to get into face-to-face, connection in the interview process and understand if they have the grit. And then secondly, to your point, do they have the ability to stay consistent and even keel? And it's a lot to do with training and mindset, right? Attitude is everything, but we do probably 60-70% mindset and attitude training within our company and 30 to 40% tactical training. Yeah, because you just have to understand that, it is a roller coaster, but the best way to have fun on a roller coaster is to keep the bar down. But some people don't realize you're even on a roller coaster. I remember years ago, I hired someone on a Monday. They didn't show up after lunch. They left to lunch and they didn't come back. So I still don't know where that person is. But we've been able to create a really, I would say, multi-tiered interview process. We're pretty rigorous about it, I'm not going to lie, but we don't regret it or shy away from it because we want people to come in and feel like, okay, I'm in a cockpit of a F1 car, and I know that what I have my hands on is pretty powerful, and they know that it's going to be a great ride, and it's very, very dangerous and thrilling, to your point, and the emotional roller coaster. But you're also in an F1 car. How cool is that? So we have to get them expected to those results.
There'll be leaders listening to this now, Gabe, who are saying to themselves, I am shit at hiring. I balls up the process. So you said there you have quite a strict process. I guess what does that look like? What have you learned along the way that's helped you hire incredible salespeople?
Yeah, so we're fully remote. I will say this was a very big and highly controversial decision that we made. And this is pre-COVID. So we were fully in office. We had 2 offices across the country, one in New York and one down in Puerto Rico. And so we were very bullish about in-office training and support and culture. We went remote with extreme preparation. So we looked at tools, technologies, and ways that we can create an in-office environment with a remote world. And so we've been able to invest in that, which is firstly. And then secondly, we also invest in technology to help us understand people and the grit piece and their ability to communicate and inability to communicate through the interview process. One of the things we do is we have them do video interview cover letters. So before they even meet with us live, they have to actually go through a multi-question interview on camera that are very specific questions customized to us to just see if they actually have a good sense of communication, tech stack, and what their personality looks like. And then we also do an audition. So they actually have a cold calling script we give them, and they have to audition for the role, just like you would have to audition to be an actor on a show or, audition on America's Got Talent or British Got Talent, right? You have to really understand that that's what this is all about. And it's a live audition. And we throw them curveballs and see how they respond. And if they can get through that, which is, of course, highly stressful when you got 5 people looking at you on a call like that in an interview, they can push through that. They probably can call a CEO and get them to say yes to the demo.
I like that. And then we are entering a new era of outbound.
4 years in, We Have a Meeting has leveled up our entire offer. That's why multi-billion-pound brands trust us.
And we book meetings with Netflix, Spotify, Facebook, even Barcelona Football Club.
We've helped close deals up to 950,000.
We're doing it all. Phone, LinkedIn, email, direct mail, and there's a few weird and wonderful possibilities that we're keeping in our back pocket. So if you're struggling to get in front of the right people at the right time, inquire today. So let's stick on that working from home piece, because we are fully in office, and sometimes we get flack for it. And I'll try and think of something controversial I can post on LinkedIn every now and then. It comes from my own learned belief and bias of, I remember having to sit there working from home and cold call and call people on the phone. And I just thought, when I was working for someone, I just thought, this is lonely, this is depressing, this is all those different things. But then you said, funnily enough, that actually 60 to 70% of the training is all around mindset. So what does that actually look like?
Yeah, I'm with you actually. I run a fully remote SDR firm. We have close to 175 SDRs right now running, and I can tell you that I'm totally with you when it comes to in office. I'm old school, right? I grew up in office on sales floors, making calls, listening to people just by osmosis and getting trained from the people next to you in the cubicles in the sales floor. So I love it. So what we were able to do is create a structure that actually is controversial here too, right? And so we have all of our reps on a virtual sales floor with camera on. And so we have pods with our managers and our SDRs where they're literally like this, the three of us on video, making cold calls in call blocks and sprints throughout the day. Now, that's not in an office, but it's also not on an island by themselves, looking at a wall in their bedroom, wondering if this is something that you want to do for another day. And so it creates a hybrid approach to that environment. And part of that, training that we provide, especially for that attitude training, is daily encouragement, daily criticism, daily constructive training throughout the day, high-fiving when we get appointments, making fun of the mean prospects that say ridiculous things, and sharing war stories in real time. And so we create kind of like, our mantra, Alleyoop, is a sports analogy. So we create this sports on field, on court type environment throughout the day. And it's encouraging and people like it.
We had someone on the podcast once, Gabe, and we said, if you were interviewing a salesperson, what is the thing you could hear that would make you say, yeah, you're hired straight away? And she said, if they said, I'm a stand-up comedian on the side. So if they were used to kind of getting on stage, having that rejection and improvising, it was like no brainer. Like you've got it. We'll skip all the other stages. For you, what are those things that you could hear at that interview stage that immediately you're saying, great, tick, tick, yeah, you're going to be just fine?
Yeah, I'd love that. And I would agree with that. It's interesting. We hired a person just recently. I will say we very typically do not hire anyone who hasn't done the SDR function in some way, specifically with calls, for minimally a year is our approach. But we make exceptions to rules for scenarios exactly like that. And this is a woman, her name is Maishi. She's awesome. She was a basketball coach for quite some time. She then became a police officer. And then she also got hurt on the job as a police officer. And she applied to the role, and we're like, what the heck? This is not at all the candidate that we typically would see. We hired her because she was a police officer. We hired her because she was a very successful basketball coach, right? And she is now one of the top 5 SDRs on our sales floor consistently. So it's interesting. I think myself, like I said before, being a bartender is an amazing asset to be in an SDR, right? You're in a commission job no matter what. You're connecting with people all the time, and you're spending a little bit of time with them before they go and sit down with dinner. And you're in a high stress environment, and you have to get them excited to meet with you for about 20 minutes, right? So think about that. So those are definitely roles. I think teachers also are great. A good friend of mine, Brian Vital, he used to work here. He started off selling door-to-door coffee. And he was a school teacher who didn't like making no money as a school teacher, unfortunately. And now he left us and became the senior vice president of sales development at ZoomInfo, and became wildly successful in the role. So really cool to see these types of careers jump into this role for sure.
So I suppose based on that, and following up from that, do you think a great SDR or a great salesperson is born or made?
It's a great question. I think I struggle with this a lot, but I really do believe that they are made. But I do also believe their background, which is them becoming made, is super important. I realized I wanted to make money for talking when I was 11 years old. right? I grew up in a very blue collar town of Buffalo, New York. My uncle worked at the Ford stamping plant, stamping metal to make cars. My cousin, was working as a cook and smelling like fish and coming home at 3 a.m. My other uncle, was literally building houses and falling off of roofs and breaking backs literally to make money. I had to do a fundraiser when I was 11 to raise money for our local aquarium that was like going to be like closing their doors. And I sold more t-shirts at 11 than anyone else in our entire school system, actually anyone else in our entire school district. And I got like this really cool award for selling t-shirts. And I realized, oh my God, I can talk and make money and I don't have to lift heavy things. This is incredible. And so that I think it helps answer that question.
So I want to talk to you about tech stack, and that might sound quite boring, but I think that so many sales leaders. I remember when me and Zach started, and then we found out that there were data providers, and it was like, what? You don't always have to go via the gatekeeper. This is mad. There's a place where you can pay and get people's mobile numbers. So I think for people listening, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm guessing there's some level of data. I'm guessing there's some level of dialer, but like, what do you think is important technology that you arm your SDRs with for them to be more effective?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know this more than anything, right? Companies come to us when they're in their infancy stage. So we have this amazing privilege to see new tools, new tech, new companies before the market sees them, right? Because they're coming to us to help bring it to market. So we were super lucky and grateful to see Discover.org when they were infancy stage and be their founding SDR team. For those who don't know, Discover.org is ZoomInfo. So we were the founding SDR team for ZoomInfo. But we are also the founding SDR team for Outreach and SalesLoft and Forum and all these really cool sales tools and data platforms. And what was exciting to see is that, oh my God, as these new companies started coming to us, we started working with them as clients of ours. We realized their technology is quite incredible and impressive. So to your point, tech is everything. It's a pinnacle of our business. Like that enablement piece we talked about earlier, like you can hire great SDRs with great grit and you can train them the best you possibly can and give them an environment, whether it's in office or remote. But if they don't have the tools to become successful, it's going to be a hard road for sure. So data vendors are not also one and the same. We don't just have one data vendor. We have many because the ICP and the verticals we work with, the markets that we work with, data vendors can very much be different for each industry that you're in. And then tools like dialers and email platforms. See, we are not an email only company. We are very bullish on cold calling. We do about 11 million cold calls a year. So our focus is cold calling. And that's our big tool that we want to take. We use a lot of different dialers. So I would say the big thing right now though, is that one-to-one connection with scored data and very, very, very specific and strategic data that you're going after is much more powerful than spraying and praying, which was very much the game for years up until about 3-4 years ago.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think it's about time, Gabe, that we spoke about cold calling from one cold caller to another. What do you think are the key ingredients that make a good cold call?
Curiosity, right? Asking right questions. It's interesting. Everyone always said, Gabe, you could be a great lawyer. I said, no, I'm going to go through sales. You could probably make more money. But it's the same role. It's just you have to know what to ask. You're asking questions, just like you would ask someone on the witness stand. Questions that aren't offensive, but bold. Questions that are intriguing, but not taking too much time. Questions that don't, put you in a position where you have to showcase all your cards because you're trying to get them to the next step in the sales journey. I always say we're the trailer to the movie, right? A good cold call is you're the preview or the trailer to the movie. It's punchy, it's fast, it's quick, it's intriguing, it's exciting, it's energetic. But if you tell everyone that everyone dies at the end of the movie on the trailer, no offense, it's probably just ruined the movie. So that's what we have to do. And that's how I feel a good cold call has to be. I know that's a general answer, but I think it's the most important part of it.
What do you think is the right way of thinking about qualification for an SDR?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in BANT on a call, budget authority time you need. Like, I don't want to know if you truly have a budget. Now, sure, that's controversial, but every AE or founder who wants leads, unfortunately they want it on a silver platter with the credit card out on their hand and saying, okay, I'm ready to buy. We have to set expectations with our clients and say that is not reality. Do we want to know if they're the right person? Yes. Do we want to know if it's the right company? Yes. Do we want to know if there's pain and there's a need and it's a problem that is solvable that by us, whatever that product may or service may be? Yes. So those are the things that we want to check off. And when I say right person, I don't mean final decision maker. Influencers, champions, I call them internal advocates, are super important in the prospecting function to multi-thread multiple people. But you at least need to know that you're not talking to, the janitor who unfortunately probably is not going to be making the decision. And so those are the right things we want to look at.
Our book is out now. Sales is Therapy is available everywhere for people who are looking to get better at communicating,
asking better questions, closing more deals, and bringing in more clients.
Beware, it is not for the faint of heart or for closed-minded people.
You can buy it in all good shops, links below.
So one of the things that I think we've all noticed on this call is whenever there's a trend, there's a counter trend, right? So at some point, someone said, let's break up the sales role into these different fragmented parts, right? So SDR, AE, whatever else you've got as part of your process. In doing that, it feels like a potential con that we often hear about is the SDR function is very focused on just get the meeting in. But by hook or by crook, get that meeting in. So long as we've hit our meeting metrics, we're cool. Who cares if it closes further up the chain? How do you solve that problem and make sure that's not a behavior that creeps in?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to say some things that we do, I believe, a little bit differently than the market. And it did not go over well when I said we were going to do this. Okay. Our clients didn't really love it. Our team didn't really love it, but I said, we're going to do it anyway. And here's why. Clients come to us, right? And they want to eventually do this in-house most of the time, unless they've done it so many times in-house that they absolutely do not want to do it anymore. But investors and companies really would like to bring everything in-house one day. Outsourcing forever is not usually the plan, but it doesn't mean it doesn't need to be. But at the end of the day, our intention is to try to clone and represent exactly what they would expect if it was in-house, right? One of the things we do for that reason is our reps are all hireable. So our reps leave us on purpose to go to our clients to bring those reps in-house and grow their career. So that's one of the things that we do to be very transparent. Another thing that we do is we just don't send meetings over the fence, to your point. Because what happens is everyone is just going after the meeting and then your meetings aren't very qualified and they're not high quality meetings and then your clients don't like you for that reason. So what we decided to do is we're not going to just send you meetings. We're actually going to send you warm leads as well. Now, if you had an internal team with an SDR team in-house working with an AE team and you had someone who was the right person, was the right company, did have some pain, but just went on vacation with their family for 3 weeks, or, just hired 16 people and is onboarding a new team of people, or just implemented a brand new technology that's going to take up their time for the next 90 days, meaning timing is off. So if it's a right person, right company, right everything, except the timing is off, that's a valuable lead. So we pass those leads to our clients as well. And it also makes the SDRs not have to go cutthroat for the meeting because one, that meeting is not going to show up. So that's a waste of time anyway. And secondly, that meeting probably isn't going to be the best meeting because the timing is off. So we actually pass warm leads over to our clients as prospects with that intention, with that in mind, and we score them that way. But by giving them a little bit up the funnel leads, it creates that less pressure of the meeting and also gives them a big valuable piece to the market that could absolutely be converted and nurtured correctly with those AEs who are more sophisticated potentially or more informed about the product. And it works in a big way. And now, after a few years of doing this, everyone loves it.
I was torn on what to ask you there, but I'm going to ask it. I guess how do you hold the client then accountable? Because we're in very, very similar games. How do you? I'm going to give you the bit. It's the steak and the utensils, but it's not cooked. You've got to go and do that yourself. Whereas we know that actually a lot of salespeople don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to do the bit. The AEs don't want to do the graft. How do you hold the clients accountable in that sense?
I think to your point is knowing is half the battle, right? Knowing that this is not a baked out appointment is part of it. Providing training and tools. I mean, we literally give them playbooks. We give them training. We give them best practices. We tell them exactly how to handle them. We also recommend tools that they can nurture to make those things happen. We teach them, hey, connect with them on LinkedIn. You send them a personalized video on LinkedIn, not a normal text. Introduce yourself. We give them a playbook to the AEs or the founders to actually know how to handle a warm lead and turn it into a hot lead. Now, we do assist as well. So for some those companies who personally just can't have the bandwidth to do it, we can keep in the loop and do that second arm. But I think to Zach's point, by separating those leads, creates less of the pressure on the hots, we call them, or the meetings themselves. And so we arm them, train them. We also introduce them to great, fractional CROs and sales trainers that are in our network who can help them do that if it's too much for us to do that.
Nice. Okay. And then, so you've got this big team of salespeople, and I was watching a Daniel Pink TED Talk the other week, and I was trying to learn more about motivation. And the conclusion is that actually money isn't the biggest motivator. It's actually autonomy and giving people the freedom to work on the projects that they want to feel a sense of purpose. Yet the sales industry is fed the message that you need to be money motivated. You need to chuck loads of money at your salespeople, loads of incentives, have a gold Rolex that somebody can win at the end of the year, and they'll be your top performer. How do you approach commission incentivizing salespeople, Gabe?
It's actually a bronze Bell and Ross, so just wanted to throw that out there. So I hope you didn't read it incorrectly. I don't like Rolexes. But at the end of the day, I think you're 100% right. And we do things here that I believe we're very proud of, but I believe does a lot of that satisfaction for our reps. I learned this from my wife. My wife does not care about a new bonus. She cares about time off, right? And so a lot of people like to work to not work. And so instead of incentivizing them on another commission, maybe their choice of commission is, free time off, not in, PTO that's baked in the normal PTO, but time off that's in addition to. So one of the ways we incentivize our team is time literally off, not to work at all. Gifts, sometimes we had a gentleman who he won a contest, and I said, hey man, what do you want? And there was a buffet of things that we have in all of our contests. It's a buffet of things they can pick. They can pick a custom shirt for those people who like, the nice things like you mentioned. They could pick a big screen TV. They could pick a paid time off. They could pick, different things that we put together. They decided they wanted to buy a 65-inch TV for Mother's Day for her mom, his mom. And the mother called me. I've never met this woman, called me and said, thank you so much. This is the best Mother's Day gift I've ever had. And I appreciate that. It blew me away. So it could be gifts. It could be time off. It could be money. But also, to your point, promotion, a track to run on, an opportunity to leave, to go to a client, to become an account executive, become a campaign director or a manager, to be a speaker and a guest trainer on a company huddle, to be maybe a guest on the podcast. Those are things that we like to do.
So let's touch on AI. I'm sure you're getting asked about this a lot. What's your? I was going to say there's either doom or there's it's kind of overblown and we're going to be okay. What side of the fence do you sit on?
Well, the CEO of AI SDR just actually partnered with a company to now start actually adding human callers to their offering. I think that kind of settles the dust a little bit more than it has been settled. Our position is AI is amazing. We have AI tools that train our reps. I mean, how cool is it that you can have a sparring partner with somebody who's an AI bot versus, someone who's a CEO on the other line and, it actually counts, right? So the AI tools and technologies, whether it's scoring, whether it's providing battle cards in real time to SDRs to say things that they should when something's being heard on the other end, to sparring partners, to role play sessions, to preparing notes, to doing research and lists augmentation and dialers calling at the right time. Like AI is incredible, But I don't, one, AI cold calling is illegal. I don't know if it's, I know it's illegal in your market as well as ours, but at the end of the day, whether it becomes legal or not, I think it's really about emotional connection. And I think that AI can help support that, but not replace it. And it's just software. I mean, I'm old enough where I remember Marketo and Pardot, marketing automation, came out 10, 12 years ago. And they fired all the SDRs everywhere because everyone's going to email automation everyone, and everyone's going to sign up for your product. And a year later, everyone rehired all those SDRs, and that didn't happen. But every SDR team is using marketing automation in their current tech stack, right? So it's a matter of using the technology correctly, as opposed to just saying, yeah, we don't exist anymore. That's my position.
I'm similar. I gave a similar answer on something this morning. I knew we were going to get on, Gabe. So I suppose if someone's listening to this now and they're that SDR that's kind of looking ahead to the next 2 years of their career, they're in their first sales job and they're thinking, okay, where am I upskilling? Am I becoming a vibe coder in the background? Am I getting better at automation? Do I just double down on the cold calling? Like what are you seeing as the skills that definitely focus on this for the next 2 years?
I don't think cold calling is going away. I think actually it's going to become significantly much more valuable, right? With less people do it, do you think, it's going to become more valuable just by, admission? And so the reality is I think you should level up that, because if you want to be an account executive and make a multi-six-figure income, AI isn't replacing account executives. Is anyone saying that right now? So if you really want to be an SDR into an AE role and have that transition, the better you are at communicating effectively with your mouth is, I think, the most important thing you need to level up on. Now, can you use AI to do that? Yeah, I just mentioned a few different ways you can do that with AI coaching and training and sparring partners like that. But I think the better you are at knowing what to say when someone says something. That's it. Like, that's the sentence. Knowing what to say when someone says something. The better you are at that, then I think the better you are going to become in sales and make more money.
So I heard something the other day, and I'd be keen to get your thoughts on it, Gabe. It's in the same vein. So when we think about communication styles, obviously me and Zach are millennials. We've now got Gen Z coming through that are working for us, and then you've got this next generation. And actually, the Gen Z will eventually be the CEOs, the decision makers. And these are the people that have always communicated mainly via WhatsApp. They haven't technically been brought up in this phone first. I know that it's hard, like looking at teenagers, they don't want to be on the phones. They want to WhatsApp everything. Do you, when you think about the sales landscape, I guess, what's your take? Do you think it will get to a point where we don't communicate on the phone anymore and actually it's more quick, fast, text, social, whatever it may be?
Yes and no. I think, again, the statement of knowing what to say when someone says something is still holds true there today, right? I have a 12-year-old, and yes, she rather text than talk, but at the same time, she's on a group FaceTime call with 6 of her friends playing Roblox, and they're all talking in her room like for hours at end, right? So I think they're still talking. They're just not talking exactly the way that we're used to. I had a wire on my phone when I grew up, literally. So the reality is yes, things are very, very different these days. But at the end of the day, I think, to my point of just knowing what to say when someone says something, whether that's through a video, whether that's through a voice note, whether that's through a text, live communication, I still think is there. And the way we message or email or LinkedIn, it's about getting to a live call, right? I mean, no AE is like, okay, great, send me this lead so I can text them the demo back and forth. Like, they still want to do a live call. The whole point is to get to a live call. So live communication, I think, from a broader, bird's eye view approach is what this is all about. Whether it's, a different medium or a different way we're doing that, whether it's, 2 cups in a string or, smoke signals or a phone call or a FaceTime or a WhatsApp text communication, I think it's just about live communication. I think that's where we live. And I think that's not going away, no matter the medium we're using.
And then you mentioned earlier about like AI coaching, and I think there are some brilliant AI coaching tools out there. But when it comes to like coaching your team or like training your leaders to coach your team, how do you think about coaching SDRs effectively to get them to success?
Yeah, so we put everyone on our campaign. We call it the home team first. So yes, if you're very fanatical about the hiring process, that's great. You'll have more talent, more effective talent, but that still doesn't mean they're able to perform under pressure and know exactly, or, be okay with what they're going to be able to communicate, on your dime. So what we do is we still put it to the test. So all of our SDRs sit on the Alleyoop campaign and cold call for us, ourselves, self-servingly, until they have been knighted essentially and graduate. And then they're able to be assigned to clients. So it's a great training ground for them to cut their teeth, get acclimated with the technology, be comfortable with the responses. And again, we're selling to salespeople. I mean, those are the hardest people to sell to, right? So if you can kind of go through that gauntlet, we call it, then you probably should be able to represent the client without any issues. So that's how we train them, if you will, and put them through that boot camp, and then they're able to go on a client. Now, training still stays there into perpetuity, but that's how we onboard, if you will.
So we obviously over the years have learned a lot from the campaigns that have gone wrong, probably more so than the ones that have gone right. Is there an example in your career of something where maybe gone wrong is not the right word, but just the expectations weren't quite right from whichever side, and it made something pivotal change in the way that you approach future campaigns from there on?
I say this sometimes and clients don't like when I say it. I said the best tool, the best asset, the best thing that you can give an SDR is a great product to offer. It's not a tool to dialer. It's not training. It's not attitude. It's not mindset. It's not management. It's not a great message. It's not anything. It's like, if you have a great product, man, isn't it just so much easier? So when we're going out looking for clients, and I don't say this to be arrogant, but we are fanatical. Well, the first thing we're looking for is, do we believe in this? I mean, how many times people talk about sales like, if you believe in the product, you're going to be successful. Yeah, well, that is, not the only ingredient, but it is, quite important in my opinion. And so if we don't believe that this is a great product or offering, I don't want to put an SDR on there and torture them, right? So I think expectations is very, very important, and we can talk about that for sure. But just getting excited ourselves about representing that company is really a huge piece of whether or not it becomes successful. And we're not always right. Trust me, we mess that up all the time. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then we realize the market doesn't think it's amazing, right? So, but at the end of the day, if we can get excited about it, then holy cow, that definitely helps in a big way for the SDR to be successful.
Okay. So then how would you define a great sellable product?
Yeah. How big is your competition? Is there an irresistible offer? Is there a massive differentiator? And as we all know as salespeople, does it solve a problem that truly is a problem that people actually want to fix? There's a lot of problem solving tools out there right now, but the problem is that no one wants to fix it. So does someone really want to fix that problem, and are they going to put money to it? And is that money that they're asking for the appropriate number that should take to fix that problem? We work with a very big company. I won't use their name because they won't like that. But we got excited because they have a huge brand. They're a big company. They're going to market. They're very successful with a lot of product lines. But they created a new product line because they saw it in the market as something that they wanted to go after to take market share away. And we went to market. We thought it was great because it checked all the right boxes and why we would love this product, or this company, more importantly. And what we realized is they are completely priced out of the market, and they wouldn't budge on it even with all the feedback. And it was not a successful campaign, even though it was a highly successful company. On the flip side, we worked with Adobe Sign. So when DocuSign, right, owned everything in e-signature, Adobe Sign came to us and said, hey, we want to take market share away from DocuSign. We're like, absolutely, this is amazing. And that's just right when e-signature was becoming like the thing. And of course, to your point, that's cool. Like we can get behind this. This is exciting. And we realized there was a lot of pivoting that they needed to make when the market responded to our calls. And they did. They tweaked it. They added things. They removed things. They changed pricing based on our responses, and very successful product today.
Gabe, I've absolutely loved this conversation. I think it's a masterclass. I think sales leaders and salespeople aligned will learn so much from this. If people want to find you and get in touch and maybe ask you more questions or work with you, how can they go about that, Gabe?
LinkedIn. I post twice a day, every day. I'm not as funny as Jack, so I apologize if my posts aren't comical as his are. But if you want to connect with me, we give a lot of free advice online through LinkedIn. And if you want to ping me on a DM, I'll be available.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you, guys.